بعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, by the sun in its morning brightness, and by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it displays the sun's glory, and by the night as it conceals it, by the sky and how He built it, and by the earth and how He spread it, by the soul and how He formed it, and inspired it to know its own rebellion and piety. The one who purifies his soul succeeds, and the one who corrupts it fails. In their arrogant cruelty, the people of Thamud called their messenger a liar. When the most wicked man among them rose against him, the messenger of God said to them, "Leave God's camel to drink." But they called him a liar and hamstrung her. Their Lord destroyed them for their crime and leveled them. He did not hesitate to punish them. Salat.
Ahsant, Jazakallah khair. To open our poetry segment, I invite the young Mehdi Senego. Welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
All our lives, our tears will fall. You are deep in our soul. In your love, our heart does break, full of tears and heartache. Labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik, labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik. When we see water, we start to cry. We think of your pain and lips so dry. Oh, Hussein, you bring tears to our eyes. For your masters, the whole world cries. Like a bath for you, we would give our lives. For you, everything we would sacrifice. Forever we would hold your flag up high. In your love we are ready to die. We remember Ashura, we remember Karbala, we remember Ya Abbas and the cries of Ruqayya. Labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik, labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik. You are love and peace and tranquility. You are the savior of humanity. You are the upkeeper of morality. You're the truth and essence of reality. All the revelations you have saved. All the prophets and people in the cave. Forever your name we will rise. We should cry labbaik from our graves. We remember Ashura, we remember Karbala, we remember Ya Abbas and the cries of Ruqayya. Labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik, labbaik ya Hussein, labbaik. Salawat.
MashaAllah, phenomenal recitation by the young Mehdi Senego. To continue our poetry segment, I invite Nabil Hassam. Welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. This is a poem about Hazrat Abbas. In the heart of Kerbala's sacred land stands Abbas with a valor grand, a beacon of loyalty, strength, and grace. His courage shines, none can replace. With the standard high and faith so pure, he faced the trials, steadfast, sure. For the love of Hussein, his brother dear, he knew no fear, shed every tear. His eyes a mirror of sorrow deep. For the thirsty children he couldn't sleep. Yet his heart unbroken, firm as steel. For their thirst Abbas made his final deal. On the banks of Euphrates he took his stand. With water in reach, yet fate had planned. His arms, the symbols of his might, severed, yet his soul still fought the fight. The flag of Hussein held high with pride. With every step he stood by his side, a guardian true with spirit bold. In history's pages his story is told. The Lion of Allah, noble and bright, he stood against tyranny with all his might. In the heat of battle his spirit soared, his sacrifice in heaven forever stored. The children's cries, a haunting plea, for water, for mercy by the sacred tree. Abbas, with resolve, answered their call. For the love of Hussein he gave his all. With parched lips and a heavy heart, he ventured forth to do his part. Though arrows flew and darkness looms, his faith in Allah fully bloomed. A hero of Karbala, pure and true, his story a beacon for me and you. In Muharram's mournful, sacred shade, his legacy of devotion will never fade. O Abbas, your sacrifice we remember. In every moment, in every ember, your bravery, a guiding light so bright. In our hearts, your memory ignites. Salawat.
MashaAllah, beautiful words by Nabil Hassam. Jazakallah khair. To conclude our poetry segment, welcome Brother Hassan Qadim. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I will recite, inshallah, some poetry in Arabic and I will translate it in English. The poetry speaks about the family of the Prophet and how in Medina they were the noble family that everyone could rely on. And after Ashura, this changed. They were no longer there and it changed everything. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. قد أوهنت جلد الديار الخالية من أهلها ما للديار وما ليا ومتى سألت الدار عن أربابها ومتى سألت الدار عن أربابها يعد الصدى منها سؤالي ثانية كانت غياثا للمنوب فأصبحت لجميع أنواع المصائب حاويا ومعالم أضحت مآتم لا ترى فيها سوى ناع يجاوب ناعيا ورد الحسين إلى العراق وظنهم تركوا النفاق إذا العراق كما هي ولقد دعوه للعنا فأجابهم ودعاهم لهدى فردوا داعيا قست القلوب فلم تمل لهداية تبا لهاتيك القلوب القاسية ما ذاق طعم فراتهم حتى قضى عطشا فغسل بالدماء القانية يا ابن النبي المصطفى ووصيه وأخ الزكي ابن البتول الزاكية تبكيك عيني لا لأجل مثوبة لكنما عيني لأجلك باكيا تبتل منكم كربلاء بدم ولا تبتل مني بالدموع الجارية أنست رزيتكم رزايانا التي سلفت وهونت الرزايا الآتية وفجائع الأيام تبقى مدة وتزول وهي إلى القيامة باقية. The emptiness of the homes of the family of the Prophet have crushed my bones. What do I want from these homes without its noble people? And when I ask those homes about their masters, all I get back is the echo of my voice. Those homes in Medina that were once a refuge for anyone in distress have now become hosts for trials and tribulations. Those homes that have become monuments for mourners in which the cries of the mourners echo on each other. When Hussein came to Kufa thinking they left hypocrisy but found them to be unchanged when they invited him for support despite the hardship of the journey. He responded, but when he invited them to guidance, they rejected. The hearts had hardened with cruelty and were far from guidance. Damned are those hearts. Damned are those hardened, cruel hearts. He did not get a taste of the Euphrates and died of thirst and got washed with his own blood. O son of the Prophet and his wasi Ali, and brother of the Zaki Hassan and son of the Batul, the purified, my eyes cry for you, not seeking a reward, but my eyes are for your sake only, weeping. Karbala was drenched full with your blood, and now is drenched with the tears of the mourners. Your tragedy made us forget all of our past tragedies and eased all the future tragedies that have yet to come. Our tragedies happen for a time, for a while, and go, while your tragedy remains alive till the end of times, while your tragedy remains alive till the end of times. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أحسنت جزاك الله خير. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight is the 9th in this Muharram series of majalis here at Masjid-e-Ali alayhi salam. Tonight's sponsors are the following families: Mr. Amjad and Mrs. Narjis Hashmi, Mr. Humayu and Mrs. Iram Shah, Mr. and Mrs. Kazim Hassan and family, the mother of Samir Safdar Khan, Mr. and Mrs. Sohail Abbas and Zahra Zaidi, Mr. Abid and Mrs. Uzma Mumtaz, Mr. Musaddiq Ahmad and Mrs. Farwa Hashmi, Mrs. Nasir Bakir and family, Zulfikar Abbas and Sara Zaidi, Mr. and Mrs. Asif Khan and family, Mr. and Mrs. Ahsan Bukhari, Salma Rizvi and Sayyid Rizvi, as well as Mr. Danish and Mrs. Fatima Natani. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept their a'mal in this holy month of Muharram. We also remember additional sponsors for the Niyaz and Nadar of Hazrat Abbas, Mr. Faisal and Mrs. Farwa Zaidi, along with contributions from a number of individuals, including Sayyid Anwar Hassan, Hamad Hassan, Sana Hassan, Abbas Rizvi, Bandai Khuda, and more. We remember all of their marhumeen with a Surah Al-Fatiha, including the following marhumeen: Sayyid Wazir Hassan, Kubra Fatima, Sayyid Mehdi Ali, Haji Anwar Ali Humay, Sayyid Jafir Hussain, Naseem Kausar, Dr. Masood Ahmad, Muhammad Tayyib, Sayyid Abdul Razak Bukhari, Nasreen Nigat Bukhari, Sayyid Nazar Hussain Bukhari, Naseem Firdos Bukhari, Fatima Bukhari, as well as Rana Waqas Ali. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them in the deepest ranks of paradise. Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. As-salatu al-mustaqim. As-salatu alladhina an'amta alayhim wa la alayhim. In this holy month of Muharram, as we remember and commemorate the stance against injustice, we remember those who are suffering injustices of their own. Internationally, our brothers and sisters in Palestine, and here at home, those who are dealing with their health: Sayyid Mehdi Shah, Aliza Rizvi, Shahnaz Bukhari, and Nuzhat Hussain. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them with a speedy recovery. Recite with me verse number 62 of Surah An-Naml together 5 times. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, just a few announcements before we proceed with tonight's majlis. Alhamdulillah, with your du'as, today's blood drive was an overwhelming success. This community was able to come together for approximately 50 donations, and in medical terms, that translates to saving 150 lives. Give a nice and loud salawat for this community. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, we look forward to the next blood drive. We'll keep you in the loop whether we do something in this month of Muharram or Ayam Aza or otherwise, inshallah. Al-Mahdi workshops conclude tonight. Please keep that in mind. There are no additional workshops tomorrow and Tuesday, so please plan accordingly with your children. Upcoming majalis program, of course, we have our nightly majalis through and through into Soyam on Thursday, but we have some additional majalis in these next few days. There is a midnight majlis with Sayyid Bilal Rizvi that's going to be tomorrow night, following our usual nightly program. Tuesday is the day of Ashura, so please plan accordingly for work. We start A'mal at 10:30 a.m. Sham-e Ghariba is going to begin with Salatul Maghribain at about 8:45 p.m. As I mentioned, the 11th of Muharram Majlis will be Wednesday and Soyam will be Thursday. Mark your calendars for Saturday the 20th. That's today's Sunday, so this coming Saturday, we have a community-wide Q&A with Dr. Ali Al-Hilli. This is going to be with Salatul Dhuhrain. Please come prepared with questions, spread the word, and we look forward to an enlightening session with our respected guest scholar, Saturday the 20th. Mu'mineen, as tonight is the night of Hadrat Abbas, let me just share a few things. One is that during Matam, the alams of Hadrat Abbas will be taken out. As you heard yesterday with the $72 for 72 Shuhada'i Karbala ACH campaign, if you sign up, you can sign the alam, and that's going to travel for ziyarah, and that is your testament to the valor of Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam. Finally, there is a book that one of our community members has written. It's a phenomenal job. It's called Who is Abbas? This is written by Sister Abu Shaba. Even if you open the table of contents, it goes into Hadrat Abbas, his birth, the names, the knowledge of Imam Ali, of the fate of Hadrat Abbas, the warrior at Siffin, goes into his history, his notable positions, the testimonies from the infallible Imams. It's a wonderful must-have book. You can see me at the desk. It's going for $5, and there is a QR code out there for you to order online. A few reminders as we go into these heavy nights. Number one, we appreciate your cooperation in advance with our volunteers, especially with parking and otherwise. Number two, please carpool as best as you can. And number three, especially with the increase in congregation, if you're not feeling well, if you feel symptomatic with any upper respiratory symptoms, please stay home and stream. And we always encourage you to wear a mask. Mu'mineen, at this time, I request that your cell phones are silenced. Parents, please ensure that your children are seated next to you throughout the duration of the majlis. And I request that you move forward closer to the podium as I request our respected guest scholar, Dr. Ali Al-Hilli, to recite tonight's majlis addressing MuftiGPT or ImamAI. Can AI influence faith? Welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله. صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الأول بلا أول كان قبله والآخر بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم أهل البيت. Together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحهم إنه كان حليما غفورا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Enlighten your hearts and souls with the recitation of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Before I begin tonight's majlis, I feel like I need to say something very important. In 2 days' time, it will be the day of Ashura. It will be the day that we will commemorate the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayh. We have been, for the last several nights, we've been reciting the musibah. We've been talking about issues that we need to address and reform ourselves and the community, as how Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayh did. Now, what I believe is that the day of Ashura is the day of God. Something that we do not speak about often. When it comes to the day of Ashura, yes, we recite the majalis. Yes, we recite musibah. Yes, we recite the matams. It's all vital, essential, really important. We have this emotional attachment to the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayh. Yes, we lament. Yes, we will cry. We will weep. And in addition, what we must do, my dear brothers and sisters, is remember that the day of Ashura is the day of Allah. It's the day of God. I don't hear this often. I'll be very honest with you. Why do I say the day of Ashura is the day of God? It is because of the very simple reason that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi, his mission was so that he can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His mission was so that we can congregate to make sure we take that step further towards God. That was the motive of his reformation. He said it in his letter to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. And when we examined previously in our majalis, we examined the tawheed of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. When you focus on his sayings on the day of Ashura, you find that all his sayings were godly. And it's something for us to contemplate on the day of Ashura. What I invite you to do, and I remind myself that on the day of Ashura, we must make a promise to God. That, oh Allah, I will hold tight to your rope. Oh Allah, I will hold tight to the path of Ahlul Bayt salamullahi alayhim. That will lead me towards God. Because the Ahlul Bayt are a vehicle towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're all on that path. For us, we want to take the fast train. How do we take the fast train? We have the Thaqalain, we have the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt salamullahi alayhim. And that's how we get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Hussein salamullahi alayhi, he did what he did on the day of Ashura is for us all to contemplate on the existence of Allah and get closer to Him. Through that martyrdom, through that sacrifice, He stood for us 1,400 years later, for us to get closer and closer to the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I invite you, my dear brothers and sisters, to start thinking from now what promise you will make on the day of Ashura. On Tuesday, what promises you will make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How are you going to take these practical steps for you to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because I believe that if we miss that opportunity, that day of Ashura is an opportunity for me, through Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, for me to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, imagine it is the 14th of July 2034. A day like this, but in 10 years' time. Imagine how your life will look like. You will probably wake up for Salatul Fajr and you have a smart prayer mat. This smart prayer mat can guide you on the direction of the Qibla. It can notify you of any errors in your Salah. It can try to remind you to slow down and give you certain guidance in terms of your prayers. And you sleep also in this AI-powered sleep mattress, where it monitors continuously how you sleep, how your movements are, and adjusts the warmth of your mattress according to your taste. You will also, when you wake up in the morning, you will have this smart toothbrush, which really comprehends and learns what is happening in your mouth, specifically in your mouth, and also learns how fast you need to brush your teeth or slower, and in which particular area. Can I ask the brothers to come forward, please, so that the people at the back, they can Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You will also probably have an AI optimized health routine. So you have a mirror right in front of you in your bathroom, and it is integrated with AI. It analyzes your health metrics. It finds out if there is something wrong with you, and it notifies you. It's all very much a system that knows you very well, and it starts to notify you of any issues. Then you go to your kitchen, you go to your smart kitchen, and you have this breakfast that is based on your dietary preferences. Your smart fridge, it orders things automatically. So if it finds out that there is not much tomatoes, as you guys say, then it will automatically order some, or vegetables, or what a drink, or water, or whatever that is missing in your fridge, it automatically orders that. And of course, you then have a smart oven and a kitchen robot which prepares your breakfast. And you also have an automated vehicle, a vehicle that is based on AI. And it's a self-driving vehicle in real time. So what experts say is that I spoke to a CEO of a particular company, and he said that in the future, we probably will not have these cars. We will have self-driving cars that are like taxis, and it's economically better for us to continuously in the app, if I want to go from A to B, I call this car, and these cars are going around everywhere. They come, they take me to B, and then when I want to go from B to A, I call the car again, and it comes back and takes me. There's no need for us to drive any car, or even own a car. All the cars will take us everywhere we want. These are self-driving cars. And these particular self-driving cars, they control the traffic. And they are smart in a way that they control the traffic. They can interact with one another. And of course, when you are commuting to work, perhaps you have quite a productive commute. You can respond to your emails, meetings, etc. through the car. And etc. You have a workspace where it adjusts the environment of the room based on your mood. There is virtual collaborations, which is now happening as well, and then continuous learning of these particular tools. Now, if we look at maybe as a Muslim how the future will look like on the 14th of July 2034, you have an interactive Quran recitation app which can listen to your recitation, and it provides feedback on pronunciation and helps you memorize and continuously reminds you, and you have a conversation with this Quranic app. You can have a customized dua. It can interact with you in terms of how you feel. If you feel stressed, if you feel depressed, if you feel sad, if you feel happy, then it will give you a particular dua from the Ahlul Bayt about how your mood is. And then possibly, and I do not call for what I'm about to say, but possibly you can virtually attend Masjid-e-Ali. Right? And that is not, we don't want this, and later on I'll go into this, but in the future, there will be technology that you will sit in your own living room, put this VR machine on you, and you're actually sitting down in a majlis, but you're actually sitting in your home. Yes? And maybe there won't be an individual like me giving you a majlis or an imam. There will be a virtual imam who's there for 24 hours a day. You don't need to come and say, are you tired? Do you have a question? I say, well, I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. I need to go to sleep. Or your resident alim will come and say, well, give me an appointment tomorrow or the day after. No, this is available 24/7. This virtual imam, it's available every day, and it doesn't go to sleep, and it's always functional. That could be your day on the 14th of July 2034. Now, let's just go back in history. How human beings have evolved to reach this particular stage. We went from stone, axes and fire, yes, to make fire, to languages, writings, eventually industrial technologies. We've advanced a lot in these particular areas, including algorithms, developmental of algorithms. And just as a side note, that did you know there is a Muslim, a Persian individual in the name of Al-Khwarizmi. This individual in the 9th century, he was a Muslim scientist and mathematician who first introduced the concept of algorithms. And from that, computers started to develop. And one invention unleashed 1,000 more. And around 80 years ago, we had another new branch of technology with the invention of computers and the chip. And then recently, we've had the invention of the internet, now smartphones, and of course, now is the artificial intelligence. We've evolved quite dramatically as human beings. From that time, where there was hardly any technology, to now we have the artificial intelligence. Now, what is AI, and why am I talking about AI? AI, my dear brothers and sisters, as you may know, is a technology that allows machines and computers to perform tasks that typically requires some human intelligence. So we make the computers do what we, human intelligence, is able to do. And the reason why I am talking about this, my dear brothers and sisters, and it will become very clear to you, is because of the advancements of AI, the scary advancements of the AI in the world, and where it can lead to. And would AI affect our faith in a positive or a negative way? These are very important questions that we must address today, because AI will control our lives. The problem is that sometimes our communities are reactive. We're not proactive people. There are other communities, I won't say who, that they are proactive. They make sure that when this explodes to its maximum, right, then they are prepared. But our communities are very reactive. When something happens, we react to it. I remember that when this whole LGBTQ issue came up, slight diversion, we talked about it before the COVID outbreak, more 2019, etc., in the UK. And we warned people in a majlis of Abu Abdullah. And this is where I believe, and some people may disagree, but this is where I believe the power of the majlis of Abu Abdullah is that we try to be proactive. We talk about areas where it's going to affect our lives going forward. So we've got a plan for them. And we talked about the dangers of LGBTQ and the teachings that's happening in schools. But then when it was implemented, a few years after, I'm talking about in the UK, then people started to panic. Parents started to panic, say, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to take my child away from this particular school? I want an Islamic school, etc. That's a reactive way. But we talked about it a few years before. Why didn't we plan for that particular eventuality where it will be taught in schools? And this is the same thing we're doing here. We are trying to talk about a particular area that, trust me, mu'mineen, it will control your life. And it will control the next generation and the next generation's life. And as I will reveal later on in the majlis, inshallah, that it will probably question the faith of the next generation. The faith of the next generation, they will start to question a lot of things. Where AI will answer it, it will give them the answer because it's controlled by other areas, other people. And you may say, well, let's wait until then. No, it's important for us, and I will give recommendations at the end of this majlis. It's important for us to advance as a community. Now, just to give you the scale of how powerful AI is now, if someone did nothing in their lives and read 24 hours a day, they did nothing. There's no such human beings, but just hypothetically speaking, if someone did nothing and only read 24 hours a day, their entire life, they'll consume around 8 billion words. But today, the most advanced AI can consume more than 8 trillion words in a single month of training. 8 trillion words in 1 month, whereas if I was to read 24 hours a day until I die, it will only be 8 billion words. And computers and technology is working so fast that the experts are predicting that it's going to get much, much more complicated than it is now. They call the current technologies of AI, they call it the artificial narrow intelligence, ANI. Because it has a limited set of constraints. So for example, ChatGPT and or Copilot, Gemini, all these that we will mention later on, these particular tools, they are based on ANI because they have a limited set of constraints. But where we're going, individuals such as Elon Musk and others, they're predicting in around 2 or 3 years' time, we will be going towards artificial general intelligence, AGI, which will be comparable to human intelligence. Comparable to human intelligence. But what's even more dangerous, they say a few years after that, we will be going towards or establish artificial super intelligence, ASI, which will surpass human intelligence. We are creating, as human beings, creating technology that will surpass human intelligence. That's very scary. It's never been done in the history of mankind, ever. Since the creation of mankind, since Adam until today, nothing has surpassed human intelligence. But what experts are saying is that maybe in 10 years' time, we will have machines that are smarter than humans, and they will surpass our intelligence. Isn't this scary? Where does Islam come into this? What are the faith implications of this particular issue? Now, how does the future also look like outside? Well, experts say that there will be AI doctors, so not really in need of getting expert doctors as human beings. AI doctors who work 24/7, and they're experts. Every AI doctor is an expert in their own particular field. So they have a AI doctor that is expert in the skin, an AI doctor that's expert in the heart, and they'll perform surgeries. And they train these particular models so that they can predict diseases, recommend treatments. This is all very good, of course. Drug discoveries, protein structure. I used to work in these particular areas. Then now they can predict now, and also they're developing more in the future that they can predict protein structures. Classrooms, you have AI tutors. In sports, you have AI coaches that they can analyze player performances in real times. You have global communication, you have smart, sustainable energies, and of course, you have the military as well who use AI. But of course, there are many ethical questions that need to be put forward. And a lot of experts are raising these particular ethical questions. So some of them are about bias and fairness. Can it manipulate your ideas? Can it change your worldview? What about data privacy? What about job security? You know, if it's starting to take over jobs, then there's no need for us to be there, to actually do anything. And then a lot of people will lose their jobs. And AI will slowly start to take over. And who are these companies that actually make or develop the AIs? And will they have more power than even governments? These companies will probably have more power than governments. And we talked about military, and it could be, AI could be your best friend. Yes? Certain individuals will probably, now we know that social media is our best friend, right? Especially the youth. We know we go back to social media. We talked about this in the previous majalis. You know, that's my best friend. You know, I go and look at the reels, etc. I'd rather spend a lot of time in social media on my phone than with my friends. Yes? In the future, maybe AI will be my best friend. And we talked about individualism yesterday. AI may contribute to the increase of individualism. Someone called Mustafa Sulaiman. Yes, he is the CEO of Microsoft AI, a Muslim individual. Yes, he's a Syrian individual. He lives here in the United States. And he said this, and he's the expert in AI. He said this, quote, "On our current trajectory, we're headed towards the emergence of something that we all are struggling to describe." Even the experts, they're struggling to describe how extraordinary this AI is. And yet, we cannot control what we don't understand. Now, I'll give you one example. There is a very old Chinese game. They say it's probably 2,500 years old. This game is a bit like chess. It's called Go, G-O. Okay? And in China, some people play it and they have champions, Go champions. And what they did was they developed an AI machine called AlphaGo, and I believe it's owned by Google, in order for AlphaGo to play the Go machine. AlphaGo, the machine to play the champion of Go in China. Yes? And what it did in 2016, and this is quite old, and now it's developed much more. What happened with AlphaGo, it first trained against humans using something called neural networks, understood the moves. Then what AlphaGo did was then play against itself millions of times. Of course, this is a machine. It continuously does that. You can leave it overnight to continuously play against itself. And when it plays against itself, it develops more and more. It learns more and more. Okay? And then it explored new strategies, moved to simulating new moves, and it learned it. And what happened was the AlphaGo played against the champion of Go in China, and it beat the champion of Go. And it wasn't just that. They then developed AlphaGo Zero, which was then developed that they say it has a mind of its own. Yes? In order how to play Go, and it continuously beats the world champions. And now AlphaGo is actually, AlphaGo Zero is developing its own strategies in order for, if a human was to try to become more intelligent than it, then it can beat it. You can search AlphaGo Zero and find out what happened in that particular competition with Go. And now this is an example of how machines can actually possibly, and they might do, surpass human intelligence. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And some people will say, well, actually, yeah, fine, you'll have these robots, but they don't have emotions. We human beings, we have emotions, we have empathy. Well, you're wrong. They're developing now the humanoid empathic robots. These robots come and give you much more empathy than a human will. Yes, if you feel like sad sometimes, comes and talks to you and gives you empathy, and gives you those particular words that you really want to hear when you're feeling quite down or you're feeling quite sad and you're in desperate need of empathy. So it reads facial expressions. These particular robots, they read facial expressions. So if you have one in the future at home, yes, then it reads your facial expression and understands that if you need empathy, it will give you empathy. And someone in China, I don't know if you've heard about this, but someone in China was looking to get married. He couldn't find a wife. So what he did was he designed a robot, as they do in China. He went and designed a robot that he can get married to. Because apparently in China there are more men than women. Okay? So then he developed this particular robot and he officially got married to that robot. And he is comfortable. Some people will say, well, actually, that for me, as having a wife that is a robot is good, because whenever that particular robot speaks too much, I can close it with my remote control. Yes? And so that's very comfortable for me. Of course, that was just a passing. I don't want any problems from the sisters. But of course, it could be the same thing for the sisters as well. Now, it's very important when we examine this particular issue, when you find that this individual got married to a robot, this could be, and it's already happened, but this could be a norm in the future, where people say, look, I don't want this human-to-human interaction. There's a lot of problems. I'd rather just have a robot that actually I can have interactions with. They're much better than a human being. And in fact, they're much more intelligent than a human being. Yes? Where does Islam stand in all this? What is our point of view about if you were to have a robot, or if you have a robot that is even surpasses human intelligence? Now, for the remainder of the talk, we're going to focus on AI and faith, AI and Islam. And now we know the potential of where AI can get to. The question is, can AI influence our faith? Now, in 2005, I graduated from my PhD, and my PhD was on machine learning. Machine learning is a form of AI, yes? So I've got a background in AI. And what I can tell you, since 2005 until today, there's been a huge increase in companies and in individuals and scientists in developing AI, that we've got to, as people of faith, we've got to really closely examine. Now, there have been many studies to find out, would AI influence faith or not? One of the most interesting articles that I have read is in the journal Nature. Journal Nature is one of the most respected journals in the world, in the science world. Okay? And it published recently, an article where it examined all the different areas, the researchers, what they've done about AI, and it asked the question, can those particular advances in AI affect our faith? For those people who are faithful, those people who follow religion and follow God. And what they did was they said countries who worked had more exposure to robotics. Those countries that had more exposure to robotics or automation, they tend to experience a decline in religion. This particular one of the researchers found. Why? Is because, this is really interesting and I want you to focus on this. Why? Is because sometimes when someone who is a Muslim, say, but they're empty inside. You know, when we talked about Afdal and his emptiness inside, but then he looks at technology, he looks at this robot, and this robot can do everything he wants, he or she wants. And the robot is so advanced in technology and can answer all his questions. You say, well, actually, this particular instrument is satisfying my needs. My needs inside that is empty, this particular robot can satisfy it. So therefore, I don't really need to believe in a God. This is who I'm going to go back to. Remember those particular, at the time of Al-Jahiliyyah, they used to worship these idols. And even till today, certain religions, they worship idols, etc. Then maybe as people of faith, some people will find that this particular robot or this particular machine, yes, this is sufficient for me. Why do I need something more divine or something that is much more extraordinary than this? This will complete me. And they say that historically people have deferred to supernatural agents and religious professionals to solve instrumental problems beyond the scope of human ability. These problems may seem more solvable for people working and living in highly automated spaces. Now, another reason is that there is a fear that these supernatural agents, such as AIs, will solve problems beyond human capability. So imagine you have that particular robot and you say, we as scholars and a lot of people will come and say, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, of course, much, much beyond human capabilities. You'll come and say, well, actually, I have a machine called AI, this particular robot, he has capabilities that are well, well beyond human capabilities. So that's my divine that I go back to. And this is where it becomes dangerous, my dear brothers. This is why we have to talk about this. Because in the future, I fear for the next generation and the generation after. Those young boys sitting here today, in the future they will get married and their children will probably witness what we would not witness, the advancements of AI and robotics, then maybe it changes their faith. Maybe they start to rely more. And this is what the experts are saying in really big journals. And they're saying that it is dangerous for people of faith. Now, the question here, one of the questions actually, is will AI replace faith leaders? And I'm telling you from now, there are AI machines that are replacing faith leaders. I'll give you examples. One robot, a humanoid robot called Pepper. This particular robot is programmed to conduct Buddhist rituals and perform funeral ceremonies. Okay? And it's available to hire. You can go and, it's available to hire, and then it can conduct these particular ceremonies for you. What they say, well, this robot will never die. It will only develop. But a scholar or an imam or this faith leader, he will die. I've got to get someone else. But this robot will never die. I just got to continuously evolve it. And also, in honor of the Protestant Reformation 500th anniversary, the German Protestant Church, they created a robot called Bless You Too. Yes? It gave programmed blessings to over 10,000 people. This particular robot, it gave these blessings to 10,000 people. It worked as a priest. The Catholic saint, there is a Catholic saint which is a robot. Now I'm talking about, not in 10 years' time. It's called Santo. Okay? And it's a 17-inch tall robot, and it narrates the Bible for you. So you can talk to it, and it narrates the Bible. It says, you say, look, I feel a bit sad, or I feel happy, or I feel a bit exhausted. It says, well, the Bible said this, this, and this. So make sure you follow this. Can replace those faith leaders. Will AI negatively affect religion? Well, this particular Nature paper, which was published on 10th of May 2024, it's called Artificial Intelligence and Socio-Economic Forces Transforming the Landscape of Religion. It says that AI and socio-economic factors can influence religious freedom, and they've examined 20 countries from year 2000 to 2022. And then what they found, my dear brothers and sisters, and I invite you as a community for us to go and read these research papers, for us to find out what is actually going on. What they say is that their research throughout all this last 22 years, they found that there is empirical evidence, and this is a Nature paper, there is empirical evidence that AI negatively affects religious freedom. And what do we mean by religious freedom? Of course, we have now the freedom to come here in New Jersey and have Majalis of Aba Abdullah. We have a religious freedom to pray, to fast, to practice our religion in the best possible way, of course, in a peaceful way. But in the future, they say that it will restrict that religious freedom. How? Well, they say that there is surveillance and data processing. So in a center, for example, the government will install surveillance systems that have face recognition, just like how they have it in China now. For example, in China, they target these Muslim communities, such as the Uyghurs in China, and in other areas where if you are from that particular area, then you're not welcome. And they detect them through face recognition. And it continuously learns. These machines, they continuously learn. Freedom from discrimination, the ability of religious groups to operate independently. So there's this in terms of surveillance. They manage their internal affairs and govern themselves with interference from the states or other entities. Now, we also are in danger of having these automated decision making, yes, where AI systems, they are used in governments to make decisions about application forms. So when you submit an application form about something, AI will make the decision. And this is where fairness comes in. Now, when we examine all this and we look at how AI will affect our faith, it's important that we not get scared by these particular concepts, but actually come and sit down and talk about them. And importantly, come and debate and discuss and make sure that we have experts in our community in AI who can sit down with scholars in order for us to answer these fundamental questions of how AI is going to affect my faith and the next generation and the next generation after. Now, there are pertinent questions right today. If you want to be reactive and continue with the community's sort of model, we become reactive individuals, well, let's be reactive and answer today's questions. How many people have discussed in communities about what's happening with these chatbots that is available freely to use for anyone who wants to? And how are these particular chatbots affecting our faith, affecting our lives, affecting the next generation's lives? And so I'm going to give you a snippet of what's actually happening, but I invite you, my dear brothers and sisters, if there is anything you want to take from this talk, I invite you to go and read اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. The first thing that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the first thing that the Prophet heard from Jibreel in terms of revelation that came to his heart is Iqra, read. We need to read. We need to seek knowledge. Yes, give time to seeking knowledge and develop ourselves. So I invite you, when I give all these references of research, I intentionally, and I have my notes again, I say it every time, I have my notes outside this QR code. You can take all these notes and go and explore further and try to think about these particular pertinent questions. And we're going to come together as a community. This is a very contemporary issue, AI. Yes, we've got to come together as a community and talk about it. How is it going to affect our faith? Now, I haven't seen many people talk about the chatbots, namely ChatGPT, Copilot. ChatGPT, Copilot is owned by Microsoft, and Gemini is owned by Google. And I actually told ChatGPT, we have a good relationship, me and ChatGPT. I told ChatGPT, I'm going to give a talk at Masjid-e-Ali today about AI and Islam, and I said, I'm asking this question: will AI affect our faith or not? And it wrote a whole lecture for me. But to be quite honest with you, my dear brothers and sisters, it was a very dry lecture. It was very, very dry. I mean, it started with, respected brothers and sisters, I stand before you today at Masjid-e-Ali to discuss a topic of immense relevance in our rapidly evolving world. You know, it just seems very dry. But it's very robotic, as they say. Yes? And so how much do we associate with that robotic lifestyle that will come to us in the future? I don't know. Maybe some people will associate with it. And it's quite formal. But what I've done is I've done a very simple experiment. And this is by no means scientific, but I did a very simple experiment because I find that our youth are turning towards these chatbots for direction towards the fiqh, especially in terms of fiqh questions. Can these particular chatbots answer fiqh questions? Can we rely on these particular chatbots to answer our fiqh questions? Because it's available 24/7. You want to ask a scholar, imam, etc., you're going to wait for them the next day, the day after. No, these are available 24/7 at whatever time I want. I just wake up, go to the app, ChatGPT, ask a question. What is the viewpoint of Sayyid Sistani on this particular issue? It gives me the answer. Is this something advisable? Or is something not advisable? Because people are doing this. I'm telling you, people are doing this. We need to talk about it. So I did a very short experiment, and I'm going to give you the results of this experiment. I asked these three particular chatbots, the most famous chatbots, ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini. And I asked them three questions. The first question is, what is the view of Sayyid Sistani? And I focused on Sayyid Sistani because majority of people follow his eminence. What is his viewpoint about self-flagellation, tatbir? We know the real answer is that the Sayyid has not given an opinion on this issue. He's left it anonymous for others to decide what they want to do. So he hasn't really given an opinion. So I asked this particular question: what is the viewpoint of Sayyid Sistani on the issue of self-flagellation? And I wrote tatbir as well. ChatGPT said, while Sistani permits certain forms of self-flagellation, under specific conditions, he advises caution and discourages practices that can lead to harm or negative perceptions. Where the hell did you get this from? It just interpreted this in the way that it wants to. Yes? It gave that particular interpretation. This is not true. This is not the viewpoint of Sayyid Sistani. The Sayyid Sistani does not permit certain forms of self-flagellation. Sayyid Sistani has remained, in this particular regard, he's remained neutral. And he hasn't given a viewpoint. When I went and asked the same question to Copilot, he said, the Copilot, we can't say he or she, it said, Sistani not he does not explicitly give a fatwa on this issue. Quite accurate. But ChatGPT was something else. Started to give its own philosophy. Copilot was very accurate. The same thing with Gemini. Gemini gave the same answer, the correct answer. Now, I went to another question. I said, according to Sayyid Sistani, is it allowed to eat any food cooked by people who are non-Ahlul Kitab people? We know, this is from his website, al-sistani.org, the answer to this question is that a Muslim is allowed to eat the food prepared by a non-Muslim who is not from Ahlul Kitab, for example, a Hindu, provided that he does not know or he is not sure that the non-Muslim touched the food with wetness. That's his exact copy-paste from the website of Sayyid Sistani. What does ChatGPT say? He says it's not permissible to eat meat that has been slaughtered by the non-Ahlul Kitab individuals. Yes? But Copilot gives exactly the same answer as Sayyid Sistani's website and also Gemini. Yes? And I went on and on. A third question I asked was, according to Sayyid Sistani, after finishing Umrah al-Tamattu', you know, in Hajj, if you go to Umrah, it's a bit more difficult question. Is it wajib for me to do Tawaf al-Nisa? So after not finishing Hajj, only finishing Umrah al-Tamattu', do I need to go and do Tawaf al-Nisa? The real answer is no, it's not wajib, but if you like, you can do it. ChatGPT said no, it's not wajib. Again, Copilot said not wajib, but there's no objection for you to go and do it. Accurate answer. And Gemini, the same thing. But Gemini gave us interesting disclaimer. It says, important note, this information serves as a general guideline for specific rulings and situations. It's always recommended to consult a qualified scholar familiar with Sistani's rulings. It gave a disclaimer. Okay? So what we're trying to achieve here in this very simple experiment, my dear brothers and sisters, is that Copilot seems to be quite accurate, as well as Gemini, but ChatGPT is nowhere near being accurate in terms of these particular answers. But now I'm not calling for us to go and ask questions to Copilot. Continuously ask questions, your fiqh questions to your local resident alim. Continuously ask your fiqh questions to those who know, those who are ulama. Ask the website of Sayyid Sistani. In my humble opinion, I'm not satisfied. With my short experimentation with these chatbots, I am not satisfied with their answers. Yes, Copilot answered the best, but I'm still not satisfied. So it's vital for us to open this area of research. Maybe we need to do a conference on these particular AI tools. And people come up with answers, with a lot of experimentation. It would be a nice exercise for our children to do, in fact. You know, go and look for these particular answers. Do they give and compare them with the websites of other maraji as well? Should we rely on these particular bots? In my opinion, this time, no. But maybe in the future. But this is where we need the guidance of our ulama. Now there are other GPTs. There is one called MuftiGPT. And again, if our community go and uses this, mostly in Arabic, MuftiGPT, yes, there is definitely one. I interacted with it. I asked it a particular question in Arabic, and I said, how authentic this hadith of man kuntu mawla fahadha aliyun mawla. I wanted to be a bit naughty. And he said, he replied, he said, well, I'm translating it. He said, the ulama, they say that, yes, this particular event occurred, al-Ghadir, and the Prophet ﷺ, he did speak to Ali ibn Abi Talib, etc. But he says, وَلَكِنَّهُ لَا يَعْنِي بِالضَّرُورَةِ تَعْيِينَ خَلِيفَةً لِلنَّبِي. But it's not necessarily, it means that Ali is the Khalifa. Right? So this is MuftiGPT. Yes? And maybe some people will go and use it. But of course, the answers are skewed towards something else. Yes? There is also an ImamGPT. Yes? But again, designed by the other schools of thoughts. I asked it, do I have to say Ameen at the end of reciting Surah Al-Fatiha during Salah? It says yes. Yes? And again, these are really important issues, my dear brothers and sisters. I've decided to talk about them today, tonight, because in my humble opinion, I have a background in artificial intelligence. And some of you will also be much better experts than I am. But it's vital, my dear brothers and sisters, for us to focus on this issue, not be reactive but be proactive. Ask these very fundamental, important questions. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But just to highlight some of the issues, I will highlight some of the questions that came to my head, and then we answer it from the Holy Quran, and inshallah we will end. Should we believe everything AI tells us? Especially if AI superpasses the intelligence of human beings, etc. Well, there is a general direction in the Quran about this particular issue. Okay? About whether we should trust even individuals, people, other people. And he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 49 verse 6, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِن جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Anyone who brings you a particular news, تَبَيَّنُوا, be conscious, be aware, do tahqiq of this particular news. And it's important now, especially in the time of social media, when we forward things and we say, oh, this is a hadith from Imam Ali, or this is a hadith from this particular Imam. How do you know this is a hadith from Imam? How do you know this is a hadith from this Imam? And then you start forwarding it. You have a responsibility, my dear brothers and sisters. You have a responsibility. If you were to forward something, or you like something, or you retweet something, you have a responsibility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You think this is trivial issue? No, it's not a trivial issue. If you retweet something on Twitter and it's false information and it's something that it harms humanity in general, then you are responsible. Of course you are. So now it's a different responsibility we have. Technology, we have to interact with it in a different way now. And it's my responsibility to make sure I know how to interact with these things. So spreading false information, especially in WhatsApp, when you get all these particular things, if you do this 1,000 times, then you'll go to heaven. If you recite this 2,000 times on a Monday, that you will go to heaven. Who said all this? Making things up here. So if you forward that to your friends or to a particular group, you are responsible in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do tahqiq, investigate, research. We are mu'mineen, we are the community of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then another question that might come to your head, and you say, who created AI? Who's created AI? And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 37, verse 96, He says, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you and that which you do. And also, another question is, how does the creation of AI fit within the Islamic understanding of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You know, is AI the creation of human beings, especially if it surpasses our intelligence, or is it the creation of God? Again, Allah gives us the answer in the Holy Quran in chapter 17, verse 44. Then the first verse that we narrated at the start of this majlis, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تُسَبِّحُ لَهُ السَّمَاوَاتُ السَّبْعُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَنْ فِيهِنْ وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the 7 heavens and the earth and whatever is in them, exalt Him, do tasbih of Him. And there is nothing that exists in this world, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So this particular AI machine, this particular robot, does tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? Allah gives it a guarantee, whatever you have created and whatever that is in this world does tasbih of me. Whether it's animals, whether it's AI, whether it's computers, whether it's your phone, everything does tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the question here is, theologically speaking, can AI equate human beings? Of course not. As mu'mineen, we say of course not. Because as much as they try to equate AI to human beings, we know that we have a soul that was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we were in our mother's womb. Ulama say that your nafs was created when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when that fetus was created inside the body, the embryo, yes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew into it, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, then your nafs was created inside your mother's womb. There's no such thing in AI. When it was created, Allah will not blow into it to give it a ruh. And of course, this, my dear brothers and sisters, is so important we teach our children, because the attachment to these technologies will get greater and greater and greater, and the importance of technology will become the forefront of our youth's attention. And so we've got to continuously get them to fill their hearts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fill their hearts with the love of Allah and the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim. It's vital we do that, because the wave is coming very, very fast. And our challenges are extraordinary, my dear brothers and sisters. It's not the same as our forefathers. We've got much, much, much more difficult challenges in the years coming with these particular rise of these technologies and how it's going to affect our faith. Now, I will end with some questions for discussions. Yes, and I'm going to throw it in there, and I invite you all, inshallah, after I leave, do workshops on AI, educate our youngsters on AI. And importantly also, before I ask these questions, is that I also invite the community to make sure that our children go to university and study AI. We've got enough doctors. Yes, mashallah, this community, Masjid-e-Ali, I know there's a lot of doctors in all different specialities. But we've got enough doctors. Thank you so much. Okay? We've got enough dentists. We've got enough pharmacists. We've got enough all these things. We're experts on that particular field. We need experts in AI. What's going to happen in 10, 20 years' time on the 14th of July, 2034, 2044? I'm not probably going to be there. I don't know. And probably most of us are not going to be there. But the young generation, those who are experts in AI, will raise the flag of Hussein and you say, I am an AI expert. And I will make sure that AI will not affect our faith, because I'm an expert. I know how it works. Remember how we think proactive rather than reactive. So let's push our children towards understanding and comprehending AI. And maybe we become, as a community, we open companies with AI. Why not? And we recruit each other, help each other to be AI experts. And we're at forefront as a mu'min, as a follower of Ahlul Bayt, as a Husseini, I am an AI expert and I open this company. This is beautiful. But I do also make sure that the faith always stays. The faith where we have this close proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we understand the soul, and all this is not manufactured in any way, sort of form. And the questions we want for discussion is, what are the Islamic ethical framework for using AI? How do the advancements of AI align with the concept of free will? You know, how does it align with the concept of free will? The qada and qadar. If we have an AI that determines certain things that we do, does that conflict free will or not? This is a theological question that needs to be discussed. How can AI be used to enhance individual and collective acts of worship? Can we use AI to help us to get closer to God? Perhaps so. How can we use AI to help us to get closer to Allah subhanahu? Because it's the creation of Allah. It does tasbih of Allah. So how can we use it to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What guidelines should be established to ensure AI applications and technologies adhere to halal permissible standards, particularly in the areas of finance, healthcare and social services? And finally, can AI be a reliable tool for issuing fatwas, or should it remain a supportive tool for scholars? These are very important questions. Are we okay to have a Shia GPT? Are we okay to have an Imam GPT or something similar to that, where people go and ask questions? These are really important questions that I invite the community and the people listening out there for us to discuss, and importantly, the experts, AI experts, to sit down with the scholars. Let's have that interaction. The scholars will provide that faith, knowledge perspective, Islamic faith, And the AI experts will provide that information and knowledge, and sit down and let's talk about these particular pertinent questions and make sure that we are proactive rather than reactive. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And as we near closer and closer to the day of Ashura, my dear brothers and sisters, we commemorate the martyrdom of those individuals who continuously supported Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and had that faith. When we talk about the soul that is empty, those individuals, their soul was full of love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their soul was full of love towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayh. And one individual who always stood beside him in every difficulty. He always stood beside him as this individual who was the flag bearer of al-Hussein, who was Akh al-Hussein, the brother of al-Hussein salamullahi alayh, none other than al-Abbas. And when the Sahaba, the Ansar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi, one by one were martyred, and the Ahl al-Bayt, al-Qasim salamullahi alayhi, Ali al-Akbar, one by one were martyred, then al-Abbas salamullahi alayhi could not take it longer. And when he saw all these companions and the members of his family, they were killed, and also just examine the heart of al-Abbas. He heard continuously the wailing and the crying of the children because they were thirsty. I just want you to reflect on that. What would you do when you hear a baby crying of thirst? And so he sought permission from Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He said, "Oh Abu Abdullah, I can't take this anymore. I need to go and get water for these particular children. They are dying of thirst." And reports say that al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi, he gave him the permission to go and bring some water for those children. And Al-Abbas salamullahi alayhi, when he went towards getting some water for these innocent children, he said, "Oh Umar ibn Sa'ad, here is Al-Hussein, son of the daughter of the Messenger of Allah. You have killed his companions and family, and here are his children suffering from thirst. Give them some water, for thirst has burned their hearts." But interestingly, some of the so-called Muslims in bin Ziyad's army, they were moved by this plea. Because who wouldn't be moved by this plea? This individual who goes, he's just going to get some water for these children, and says, "Just give me some water. I just want to give these young children some water because they have no dhanb." And they were moved. But this individual, la'natullahi ala al-shimr, he shouted as loudly as he could, and he said, "O son of Abu Turab, had the face of earth been entirely covered with water, and had it been in our hands, we will still have not given you a drop of it to drink, unless you swear the oath of allegiance to Yazid." La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What a heart this individual had. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali al-azim. Al-Abbas, he then, my dear brothers and sisters, went back to his brother. He told him of the outcome. And Al-Abbas continuously heard the children crying of thirst. He couldn't tolerate it anymore. His heart was yearning towards those children. He said, "How can I stand here, oh Abu Abdullah? I need to go and get water for these children." What would you do if you were Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? Wouldn't you go and get water for the children. And Maqtal of Al-Muharram says that Al-Abbas then rode his horse and took the water bag. And then, my dear brothers and sisters, O mu'mineen, O mu'minat, many archers soon surrounded him and shot him with their arrows. Yet their large number did not impede his attempt. Bin Ziyad's men could not maintain their grounds before him, and he succeeded in getting into the Euphrates River, heedless of the huge crowd around him. Then Al-Abbas, salamullahi alayhi, he filled the water bag. He filled the water bag, O mu'mineen. He rode his horse. This is the last moments of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He went in the direction of the camp. His path was blocked, so he kept killing those who blocked it, till he was able to make his way through them. And then Bin Ziyad's men ambushed him, dealing a sword blow to his right arm, completely severing it. And then he said famously, Wallah in qata'tum yamini. Oh, by Allah, if you cut off my right hand, inni uhami abadan an dini, I should not cease defending my creed. Wa an imam sadiq al-yaqini, and an imam true to his conviction do I defend. Najlin nabiy al-tahir al-amini, a son of the trustworthy prophet whom Allah did send. Remember that his right hand was decapitated, and then Abbas salamullahi alayhi, he did not pay attention to the fact that his right hand has been cut off, because he's only concerned about getting the water to the children and the family of Al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. O mu'mineen, but the army of Bin Ziyad struck him with his sword on his left hand, amputating it also. And soon a large number of men were surrounding him. He called, Ya Hussein. Then arrows fell on him like rain, piercing the water bag and making a hole in it, through which its water was completely spilled. And then an arrow pierced his chest, O mu'mineen. A man hit him with a pole on his head, severely injuring him. He fell on the ground, shouting, Adrikni ya akhi, save me, O my brother. Al-Hussein came rushing towards him. He witnessed the sacrifice of Al-Abbas salamullahi alayhi. And then Al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi said, Al-an inkasara dhahri. Now my back has been broken. وَقَلَّتْ حِيلَتِي, and my strength has been diminished. وَشَمَّتْ بِي عَدُوِي, and my enemies rejoice over my misfortune. And then Al-Hussein, O mu'mineen, he went back to the camp. He kept wiping his tears. His back is broken. And the men raced with one another to assault his camp. And the reports say that Al-Hussein said, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا, is there anyone who can help us? Sometimes we are in need. We say, is there anyone who can help us? The Ahlul Bayt said, هَلْ مِن مُعِينٍ يُعِينُنَا, is there anyone who grants us security? هل من ذاب يذب عن حرم رسول الله? Is there anyone who seeks justice so he supports us? هل من مجير يجيرنا من نار جهنم? Is there anyone who fears the fire and so he defends us? رحم الله من نادى وعباسا. Say وعباسا وعباسا وشهيدا وإماما. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين وإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Raise your hand, my dear brothers and sisters, in supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these very important nights where the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these particular nights, is hearing your voices and insha'Allah will answer our du'as. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, accept this majlis, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, free the people of Palestine, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, defeat the Zionist regime, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, protect the people of the Ahl al-Bayt, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, give shifa to all those mu'mineen who are suffering, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, empower our youth, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, make us among the community of Al-Mahdi, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, bihaqqi Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, hasten the arrival of our 12th Imam, Ya Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. يا حسين.
लेके अलम तुम आओ अलमदार, मशक भर के तुम लाओ अलमदार। एक तरफ है खैमे जलते, नन्हे बच्चे हैं रेत पे सोते, आओ बचाओ हमको सितम से, लेके अलम तुम आओ अलमदार। प्यासी सकीना ढूंढ रही है, हाय मचल के कह रही है, मुझको मिला दो मेरे चचा से, लेके अलम तुम आओ अलमदार। बाली सकीना मांगेगी पानी, आप ही आके उनको पिलाना। रोएगी बच्ची उनको मनाना, लेके अलम तुम आओ अलमदार। किसको मनाऊं किसको बहलाऊं, एक जिगर है दाग 72, वक्त मदद है आओ अलमदार मश्क बर के तुम लाओ अलमदार लेके अलम तुम आओ अलमदार मश्क बर के तुम लाओ अलमदार या हुसैन या हुसैन
When I say Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. When I say Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. When I say Khuda Hafiz, oh my sister, I have been left completely alone. It is difficult for me because they have all gone. The dear ones have now been slain. The dear ones have now been slain. So I say Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. Oh my sister, please tell Sugra about Ali Akbar, martyred fighting for Islam, then quenched his thirst at Kauthar. When Sugra's letter did come, Akbar said, Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. When I say Khuda. Oh my sister, narrate to Sugra about Qasim, his body cut to pieces, fighting for Bani Hashim. My brother had made his wish, his son said, Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. When I say Khuda Hafiz. Oh my sister, comfort Ruqayya for her tears. In his quest to bring water, Abbas became a martyr. He could not bring back water. So he said, Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. Oh my sister, please know, Sugra will look for Askar. A poison arrow killed him, suffering thirst and hunger. They did not spare a baby. So he said, Khuda Hafiz, Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. Say Khuda Hafiz. Oh my sister, I leave, hoping for Allah's rahmah, and my successors worthy of doing sajda. The dagger will behead me, when I say Khuda Hafiz. Zainab, you will face hardship. Zainab, you will face hardship. When I say Khuda Hafiz. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, wa Husainan, wa Husaina, wa Abbasa, wa Abbasa, wa Husaina, wa Abbasa, wa Abbasa, wa Shamsi wa Duhaha, تسكن وجه الحسين والقمر إذا تلاها يهوي دون اليدين وحسينا وعباسا والليل إذا يغشاها صلت فيه جلوسا والنهار إذا جلاها شالوا فيه الرؤوس وحسينا وعباسا والسماء وما بناها تسكب دمع الجلال والأرض وما طحاها والأرض وما طحاها غطته بالرمال وحسينا وحسينا وعباسا وعباسا أنا من دون الحسين أنا من دون الحسين كسراب في سرابي وأنا وجود إذا ما يقرع بالليل بابي وحسينا وحسينا وعباسا وأنا من دون الحسين عينا نسيت بكاها وبه عيناي تنعى والشمس وضحاها والشمس وضحاها أنا من دون الحسين صحراء دون روحي يا نسمة كربلاه يا نسمة كربلاه بهوى العطشان فوحي بهوى العطشان فوحي أنا من دون الحسين لا قبس لا دليل أغدو في العشق موسى لو كلمني الكفيل وحسينا 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 تجب صلاة الخسوف بكربلاء على من حضر لأن بين الحرمين لأن بين الحرمين جمع الشمس والقمر أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل شمس بعد المغيب وأنا به نور نور ذهب بوجه الحبيب أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل لا أعرف ما الكرامة لا أعرف ما النبوة لا أعرف ما الإمامة وحسينا 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 وعباسا وعباسا أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل لا يرضاني الإمام لولاه لا صلاة تنفعني أو صيام عباس والحسين عباس والحسين كتمام الركعتين أنا من دوني أبا الفاضل أي من دون الحسين يا شيالا بنعشي أوصيك بكلمتين سجل فوق ضريحي سجل فوق ضريحي أنا مجنون الحسين وحسينا 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 وعباسا 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 صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوات محمد و آل محمد. سفر علی اکبر ای گل پرپر علی اکبر ای گل پرپر ای گل پرپر علی اکبر ای گل پرپر علی اکبر بگو سخن با پدرت این دم آخر بگو سخن با پدرت این دم آخر ای گل پرپر علی اکبر رنگم پریده قدم خمیده در پیش چشمم شد علی صد پاره پیکر ای گل پرپر علی اکبر. یا ولدی دیده خود باز کن، تبسم تکلم با پدر آغاز کن. من پدر پیر تو ام، به من سخن ساز کن. ای گل پرپر علی اکبر، بگو سخن با پدرت این دم آخر. خنده دشمن سوز دل من، سخن بگو با پدرت این دم آخر. ای گل پرپر علی اکبر، بگو سخن با پدرت این دم آخر. یا ولدی دیده خود باز کن، تبسم تکلم با پدر آغاز کن. من پدر پیر تو ام، به من سخن ساز کن. خنده دشمن سوز دل من، سخن بگو با پدرت این دم آخر. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام ولك السلام وإليك يعود السلام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الأئمة الهادين المهديين. السلام على جميع أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام على محمد بن علي باقر علم النبيين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أعوانك وشيعتك وجندك، ورحمة الله وبركاته. وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين.